What's up? What's up, guys? How's everybody doing? Hopefully, we got some winners. We had a lot of our guys play good this week. We had last waiver wire targets play really good. Told you guys to get Raheem Mostert and DJ Chark. Both had big weeks, as did Terry McLaurin. Waivers are really important. I think waivers are arguably the most important part of fantasy football because sometimes it's really hard to broker a trade. Some people don't like trading, and then finding the right partner, finding the right situation. But waivers, they're just there for your taking, which is why I recommend holding your waivers. A lot of you guys, I think, don't value your waivers enough, and we're going to get into that. And I really want to take the time to talk about that this segment. I talked about it last segment, but I want to keep drilling it in your brains because it's so important, guys. So everyone, welcome. Give me a thumbs up for those of you that are in here. It's much appreciated. And then without further ado, let's get right into it, guys. Also, just a reminder, if you want to get in my Facebook group, I'm doing it at a discount now that the season started. It's only $10. Make sure you comment down below or DM me at Fantasy Football Rapper or at Twitter. I am FF Rapper. Let's get into it, guys. So I don't think there's going to be anything that crazy this waivers. The problem is we were so ahead of ourselves the last waivers that, everybody we said to get last waivers, now people are saying to get this waiver. So it happens. It's a good problem to have. A lot of you guys got like the DJ Charks, the Raheem Mosterts. Those are still the top pickups today for the leagues that still have Terry McLaurin. He's going to be a top pickup. But we'll break it down position by position. I'll probably spend a little extra time at receivers because I think that's the position that I think people waste the most waivers on, and it's just not necessary. And I'll break down exactly why and who to target and who you don't need to really waste a waiver on. So quarterbacks, I don't think it's anybody's surprise. I've been high on Josh Allen before the year even started. I think he was a top 5 QB this past week. I don't think since that week 12 of last year, he's only had 2 finishes outside the top 10. So Josh Allen is a QB1. It's no longer a fluke. He's got an improved offensive line. He's got better weapons. Not great, but John Brown's doing his thing. He's been pretty consistent. I hate that Devin Singletary went down, but, it is the National Football League. Hopefully Frank Gore and TJ Yeldon will hold it down. I don't think I'm picking either one of those up, but it also depends on your league and, how your roster is constructed. But Allen for sure is a must pick up. Even if you have a quarterback, I recommend picking up Allen as a backup. If nothing else, you can use him as trade bait. Quarterbacks are becoming a little more scarce now. We have Breeze go down. We have Ben Roethlisberger go down. So you might be able to get some trade value if Allen continues, his ascension into that, borderline elite status. He still has another step to go, but he's at least looking like a possible solid QB1, which is valuable. His running also presents him a really solid floor, so that's a big deal. Running quarterbacks are definitely like cheat codes. The other quarterback I've been really, really high on is Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston, he would be my second. Now, Kyler Murray would be my first if he was still available. The one thing I will say about Murray, though, I'm a little disappointed. He hasn't ran the ball at all, which is part of the reason I thought he could get into that elite status, that possible top 5 status. We'll see if maybe it's just these 2 weeks. Maybe, he'll need to run the ball more, and he'll do so out of necessity. But so far, that has been a disappointment. But definitely Murray. Some people, get impatient. They may have dropped him in some of you guys' leagues. I would pick him up for sure. And then there's the next tier. So there's Murray, Allen, and Winston. Those are my guys. Those you got to pick up, even if you have a quarterback. Not necessarily Winston if you have a quarterback, although I think he's going to do some work. Remember, part of playing the waiver wire, too, guys, is playing prevent defense. So let's say you're going up against an opponent that was a Breeze or Ben Roethlisberger owner and they need a quarterback, and Winston is sitting there on the wire, then you might want to pick him up as a way to block your opponent, because Winston is playing the New York Giants, and the best remedy for a slump is the New York Giants. So, start thinking that way too. Don't always think about your team, because every single week is important. So just something to keep in mind. And then there's the next tier. The next tier is your Andy Daltons, who surprisingly has a really safe floor so far. So even with limited weapons, I think that offense will continue to get better. Joe Mixon only played 50% of the snaps. So hopefully by week 3, this coming game, he'll be fully healthy. Tyler Boyd has looked great. John Ross has held it down. Hopefully they'll also get back their left tackle, which will hopefully improve the pass protection and the offense as a whole, blocking for Mixon. So things are looking up. And then, of course, the obvious, A.J. Green should be back in a couple of weeks. I don't know exactly when, but I'm thinking around, 3 or 4 weeks. So things are looking up, but I still consider Dalton a step below Allen, Winston, and Murray. And on par with my next guy, Matthew Stafford. If you need quarterback help, Matthew Stafford looks like he's going to give you a pretty safe floor, because, again, the Chargers are not a bad defense, and he still put up. And I said this, I was like, I think Matthew Stafford will have like 220 to 250. I don't know the exact stats, but it was basically what he had. He did have 2 touchdowns, though, so I was quite impressed, especially everybody's biggest fear about the Lions offense was that Darrell Bevell, their new offensive coordinator, they were going to run. And that's actually been the biggest disappointment, because Kerryon Johnson only had 12 carries that game. So that's unfortunate. And then my third quarterback in that same tier will be, this might be a surprise to some, is Mason Rudolph. Mason Rudolph showed signs the preseason. He was a pretty highly touted prospect, not a top tier quarterback, but I think he had the most air yards in college. He had the most passing yards, the biggest chunk plays. He looked really good at Oklahoma State. He looked really good this preseason. And when he came in for Ben Roethlisberger, he almost brought the Pittsburgh Steelers back for a win and looked really good there as well. Juju caught more balls with him under center. So Mason Rudolph, I think, could be on par because of that offense. Sometimes it's just all about the system, and they have a really good system in place. I think Connor and Juju, they might take us a little step back, but I don't think it's a drastic step back compared to New Orleans, where I think Kamara is going to take a huge hit. Jared Cook's going to be borderline droppable. Michael Thomas, even though he caught a lot of balls, did not have a lot of yards. I think he had like 80 yards on 10 catches. So you like to see the volume, but, the productivity. Teddy Bridgewater, I didn't mention him because he's just not that good. He's more of a game manager. He's not going to be a fantasy starter like some might think. Now moving on to the running backs. The running backs, like I said, Mostert is a must grab. The reason Mostert's a must grab as opposed to some of these other guys, because, Tevin Coleman's already injured, all right? We know that. And then Breida is always injured, and it's just a matter of time. So chances are he's going to be that number 2 guy between Coleman being hurt right now and Breida eventually getting hurt. And I don't wish any player to get hurt, but that's what he's shown us throughout his career, which is why I think Mostert's a must grab. And he's looked pretty damn good, really good, super fast, great pass catcher. All the reasons I stated in my last video, Mostert is still a grab if he's available. The only bad thing is he does have a tough matchup against the Steelers, and then he has a bye. So that's the only downfall. So if you're really deep at running back, you could save a waiver, but he does seem like one of those guys that'll pretty much be relevant throughout the year. Barber, depending on what your running back depth is, I'm not crazy about Barber. I'm not calling him a must-add. If you have the number 1 waiver, you're not wasting it on Barber. But some of you guys, you could have been hit with injuries. Is there any major running back injuries? Or maybe you just drafted bad and you just need some running back depth. That's okay if you have a lower waiver and you really need a running back, you're in a deeper league. But again, Barber is going to be one of those guys that's just touchdown or bust, kind of like a Carlos Hyde, kind of like a Derrick Henry, even though Derrick Henry does have some value. But I try to stay away from those guys. I don't like guys with low floors. Malcolm Brown, just for the simple fact, I think it's a matter of time before Gurley gets hurt. You could tell they're really trying to, take it easy with him. He hasn't looked bad, but something just doesn't feel right. And so Malcolm Brown, and maybe he doesn't have much standalone value. He did in week 1, he did in week 2, but he still looked good in week 2. He still had 1 catch for 10 yards. I think he averaged over 5 or 6 yards per carry in this limited carries that he had. So Malcolm Brown, because he's in that offense and because he's looked good, quite frank, he's a must add. And then you got your next guys. The next trio, or there's 4 running backs. These are just handcuffs. Oh, by the way, Darwin Thompson. If Darwin Thompson is available, he is a must add. He is worth a number 1 waiver because even though he has technically 2 running backs in front of him, Shady and Damian Williams. They're both part-time backs. Shady's older. He got injured. Damian Williams got injured. One of them will probably miss this next game, and you definitely want to get Darwin Thompson before he becomes what he's about to become if he blows up the next game. And he'll be for sure the number 1 waiver. So it's better. I still have Darwin Thompson. I drafted him. I never let him go. So I recommend if he's on your waiver, he is a must-add over even Mostert. Even though Mostert is more secure in his playing time, the type of upside that Darwin Thompson brings, particularly in that offense, could be league-winning. So Darwin Thompson, then Mostert, and Barber, if you're really desperate and need a running back, Malcolm Brown for sure. And then your next guys are I mentioned this yesterday. Dalvin Cook, 2 straight games with 20 plus carries. Aaron Jones, same thing, 27 touches yesterday. You guys that own Aaron Jones, he's been injury prone. Dalvin Cook has been injury prone. Kerryon Johnson has been injury prone, and Ty Johnson looked really good himself. Only 5 carries, had 30 yards, a 6.0 average. And he also had a couple of catches, or at least one. Again, I'm not a stats guy. I'm just trying to go off the top of my head here. And then, of course, if Alexander Madison is available, you are picking him up. And Ty Montgomery. We saw Bell. He had an MR on his shoulder this week. He's getting an insane amount of volume, guys. For a running back that was out 2 years, I have no faith if they keep using Bell like they have, and now they got a third-string quarterback, so they're going to use him even more. I think there's a very good chance. And again, I don't like to predict players being injured, and a lot of people, I think they get angry with me because I take into account like predicting injuries. Well, guess what, guys? The facts remains that almost half of the top fantasy players either bust or are injured. So because I know these statistics, I know chances are that a lot of these running backs are going to get injured. And the ones with the most likelihood of getting injured are going to be the ones that are used the most and the ones that are most injury prone. I mean, it's common sense, but sometimes common sense isn't so common. So that's why I'm saying get the Malcolm Browns, get the Darwins, get the Jamal Williams if you have Aaron Jones, get Gio if you have Joe Mixon, get Madison for sure. Madison should be on everybody's roster, whether you have Cook or not. And then get Ty Johnson and Ty Montgomery. Ty Johnson for Kerryon Johnson, Ty Montgomery for Bell. These are going to be your potential league winners. Now, if you need immediate people to start this week, obviously your hands are tied behind your back, and they're more geared towards, teams that have these frontline starters. Because the thing is, the way these players' offenses are, if Ty Montgomery goes in for Bell, they don't really skip a beat. He's going to be used a lot as a pass catcher, okay? Same thing, Ty Johnson, Kerryon Johnson, there's really not much difference in talent. I know some of these names might be new to you guys, but look up Ty Johnson. He is possibly the fastest person in the league and one of the strongest running backs in the league. Gio, again, a tremendous pass catcher, an offense that's going to use the running back as a pass catcher. He's somebody that's very valuable in PPR, something that happened to Mixon. Matt LaFleur knows how to use his running backs, uses his own scheme, and especially uses them as a pass catcher. Jamal Williams is a tremendous pass catcher. Not so good running the ball, but on a potent Green Bay offense. Again, he was a running back one. A lot of people don't realize this. Jamal Williams, he stinks. Talent-wise, not a good runner of the football, like I said. Averaged less than 4 yards per carry, but he was still a running back one during the fantasy playoffs last year when Aaron Jones got hurt. Sometimes it's just a system. A system will make a player relevant. We've seen it last year with Damian Williams when he took the league by storm just for being in that Kansas City offense. So, wide receivers, there's really only two must-adds. Same two guys I talked about last week, DJ Chark and Terry McLaurin. McLaurin looks like the real deal, and the crazy part is he's playing over 90% of the snaps. For a rookie, that's insane. And he went up against, this is what sold me, against Byron Jones. Very, very tough matchup. Arguably a top 10 corner in this league, and he did his thing. The guy looks unguardable. He's so smooth in his routes, and he's so long and lanky, tremendous hands, and then he only runs like 4.3-something speed. So he's basically unguardable, and he showed that against a top-tier corner with a so-so quarterback. That's what I call talent. That's what I call must-add. Same thing with DJ Chark. 6th-round rookie quarterback. Got himself open for that touchdown. Led the team in targets. I predicted this. This might happen based on his performance. He had to show what he can do. He showed what he could do, and the team rewarded him by throwing him the ball most, targeting him. He was the most targeted receiver on the Jacksonville Jaguars. So DJ Chark, those two are must-starts because those two could be potential every week, or must-adds because those two could be potential every week starters. Okay. Outside of that, yes, Debo looked good. Debo looks the part, but San Francisco is still pretty much starting everybody the same, playing every receiver in that lineup the same amount of snaps. I don't think there's a receiver that had over 50% of the snaps. Goodwin had like 50%. Believe it or not, Pettis had 49%, more than Debo, but he wasn't targeted. Debo only had 40% of the snaps still. So they're easing him in there. I do think he'll be fantasy relevant, but in order for us to see the full potential Debo, his snap percentage has got to go up, or he's going to present a low floor. And not every week is he going to play Cincinnati. So I don't see Debo as a must-add. If you have a low waiver and you want to use it on Debo because your receivers are a little shaky, you need some depth, you need some upside, cool. You're not spending the number one waiver on Debo. Only DJ Chark or McLaurin are worth a top tier, like a top 3 waiver. I wouldn't even spend a top 5 waiver on Debo, not now, because chances are somebody might pick him up and then he has another bad game and they'll drop him again and you could pick him up later. And this is the real reason why you're not picking up Debo or guys like James Washington, Nelson Aguilar, even Demarcus Robinson. These are going to be hot names. These are going to be number one waivers in most leagues, but this is why you're going to be smarter than them. Because what's my rule with the waivers? There's like 2 or 3 of them. Is the person you're picking up, are you starting them right away? Are you starting Demarcus Robinson? Maybe you are. I don't know what your receiver situation looks like. But chances are bye weeks haven't kicked in. I haven't realized too many wide receiver injuries that I could think of. So the second thing is, if I pass up on Demarcus Robinson, is there a chance I could get a comparable receiver and not waste the waiver? The answer is yes. Now, I love Demarcus Robinson in the sense that he plays for the Chiefs. But not everybody. I mean, the Chiefs are going to score a lot. And anybody on the Chiefs pretty much has value. But not every week are they playing the Raiders. As a matter of fact, they're playing Baltimore this week. And he only has 6 targets. And he's a deep threat. I like getting players that have high volume, lots of targets, and, they're not just big play guys, because if you don't get the big play, they're bust. So he still has a low floor, and there's comparable guys you could probably get for free. A couple of those guys, one being Devin Smith. Michael Gallup is out for 2 to 4 weeks. Devin Smith looked really good. I think he had a touchdown last game, caught 3 balls, 77 yards, something like this. And now he goes against the Dolphins, who were shredded, who have been shredded by teams' second and third receivers, because they do have a good number one corner in Xavier Howard. He'll be matched up against Amari Cooper. Well, who does that lead to catch the football? And it's the Dolphins, guys. So, yeah, Devin Smith can give you a pretty solid game. He's probably somebody I'm going to be targeting in DFS, and you could get him for free. Most people are not going to waste a waiver on Devin Smith. And if you don't, life goes on, because I wouldn't waste a waiver on Devin Smith. But this is the type of mindset. A lot of people are high on James Washington. James Washington is a small receiver. He's like 5'10", 5'11", and he's a speedster, a deep guy. So if he doesn't get that big play, again, he busts. Now, a lot of people are into James Washington because of hypotheticals. Oh, he was the college teammate of, Mason Rudolph. Oh, they connected a couple of times in the preseason against the team's second and third corners. And nobody's game planning in the preseason. They're trying stuff out. So James Washington is another name I would stay away from. Now, his situation has improved because Moncrief has looked horrible. I think that's really attributed to a fractured finger or thumb or something like that. So James Washington, he might have some blow-up games. But again, what I look for in a team is consistency, volume, and targets. He's not going to get volume on a team with Juju Smith-Schuster, on a team that features the running back a lot in the passing game, so they'll be using Connor, sometimes Jalen Samuels, and then even Vance McDonald, surprisingly, played 90% of the snaps. I think that's the first time in his career. So looks like they'll be targeting McDonald as well. So James Washington, again, not somebody I'm looking for or wasting a waiver on. Nelson Aguilar, logic would tell you, Jeffrey might be out, Djax might be out, although he said he's playing. Goddard's probably out. But we've seen this from Nelson Aguilar before. And maybe for week 3, he is worth a start. But if I'm using a waiver, unless I really need Nelson Aguilar, I'm in a desperate must-win situation. But even then, is Nelson Aguilar somebody we could count on? I'd say no. And we've seen Nelson Aguilar be productive. We have. But we haven't seen him be consistent. So I don't want players that I have to be, complete darts, and at least not for a waiver. I don't think anybody's desperate at this point, even if you're 0-2, where you need to waste the waiver. Because if you're 0-2 and you wasted that waiver on Nelson Aguilar, what happens then if you go 0-3 and now you are in the bottom of the waiver list? Now it's full-blown desperation. Now you're desperate. 0-2, you're cool. I always say, if you're 0-3, that's when we're playing DFS. Every week's a playoff. 0-2 is fine. You got to evaluate your team. Make sure, your team looks good. Make sure you don't have any glaring holes. So don't add insult to injury by wasting a waiver on Nelson Aguilar. He flames out. You lose. And now you got no salvation. Oh, and Gurley goes down, and Malcolm Brown is available on your waiver, and you could have got the number 1 waiver pick, the lead running back on a potent offense, and you wasted on Nelson Aguilar. So don't do that, guys. That's what I'm trying to stress. This video today is all about teaching you guys the importance of waivers and how to use them effectively to your advantage and not waste them on Nelson Aguilar, Demarcus Robinson. Remember, Tyreek's going to be back again. So remember, if you put them right in your lineup, pick them up. If they're just going to collect dust on your bench or they're complete darts, get comparable players. Devin Smith is a comparable player who you could probably get for free. Kenny Stills is a comparable player you could probably get for free. And Kenny Stills, because the guys in front of him, Will Fuller, who's playing 90% of the snaps, and of course Hopkins. Will Fuller's super injury prone. The other guy he was splitting snaps with almost evenly, there were about like 49, 47, him and Cutie. He's also injury prone. So chances are, and with all that, he's had 2 wide receiver 3 games back to back, and he just joined the team. And that's with limited snaps. I expect his snaps to increase, and I expect one of these receivers to get injured because they always have. So Kenny Stills is a player in a potent offense who's comparable to Demarcus Robinson, to Nelson Aguilar, to guys that people are going to be using a waiver on that you could get for free. And there's two more. JJ Arcega-Whiteside, for people that are box score watchers. They're not familiar with this name, or they don't think he's worth a waiver pickup, because I haven't seen one person mention him, just like I didn't see one person really mention DJ Chark last week. But I tell you to look for talent, and the kid is talented. Just like Chark, second-round pick. Just like Chark, 6'4". Not as fast as Chark, but still runs 4.5 speed and a little bulkier. He has that red zone body. And again, Jeffrey's probably out. D-Jack's questionable. Goddard's probably out. Didn't show us a whole lot in Atlanta, but that's okay. I bet on talent. And everything I've heard about this kid is that they really like him in Philly, and they wouldn't have spent a second-round pick if they did. And they're throwing offense. He's got Carson Wentz throwing these passes. I'll take my chances with J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. I like him better than Aguilar. And he's a good guy that could keep, improving as the season goes on. We've seen it last year. Sutton, DJ Moore, these guys didn't really kick off till later in the year. Rookie wide receiver is one of the hardest positions to transition to in the NFL. So J.J. Arcega-Whiteside is worth considering. And then last but not least, or maybe is least, Cole Beasley. Cole Beasley has presented us a very safe floor, double-digit points in 2 straight weeks. The targets are there. The offense is there because they don't have a lot of pass catchers. They have John Brown and Beasley. And now Singletary's gone, so he might even see increased targets. I'd rather Beasley, who's shown us to have a pretty safe floor due to the lack of playmakers on that offense, than waste a waiver on James Washington or Aguilar. John Ross, the one name I didn't mention earlier that might be worth a pickup. I'm still not a big John Ross guy. I still need to see more. We've seen big games, 2 in a row. It's impressive. He did get quite a few, targets, and they are lacking pass catches. But eventually, Mixon's going to play more snaps. AJ Green's coming back. So long-term, not that crazy about Ross. I think right now he is very well startable, at least as a wide receiver 3 with upside. But so I don't know if I would spend a top waiver on John Ross, but I probably would spend a waiver depending how you look, in your league, and depending how much wide receiver depth that you have. So yeah, there you have it. The guys that you want to waste away, you want to, for sure, McLaurin or DJ Chark are worth a 1 waiver. They're worth any waiver. Debo and John Ross are worth maybe a lower waiver. And then Demarcus Robinson, James Washington, Aguilar, I'd rather get J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, Kenny Still, Cole Beasley, or Devin Smith for free, especially if you need a plug, because all of them present pretty decent floors, pretty decent matchups. And then finally, the position I hate the most. I hate tight ends. I don't even like talking about it. My mood just changed. Tight ends are just whack. They're super whack. If somebody dropped Olsen, pick him up. Even though Cam might not play, I'm still not in love with him. A lot of you guys are desperate for tight ends. I'm in the same boat. Noah Fant would be the next guy. First game played 80% of the snaps. Second game played over 60, maybe 67% of the snaps, had a couple of catches. So I could see Noah Fant being a guy that gets better as the year goes along. Again, tight end is another position that you rarely see players be effective their rookie year. But Noah Fant is an elite athlete. He can break the trend. He's special. They used the 1st-round pick on him. Flacco likes the tight end. So I do see Noah Fant as being a guy. He's probably your best pickup out of the waiver wire if he's still available. So even though he hasn't broke out yet, remember, I like seeing things before they happen. And Noah Fant, I could see him, flirting with those low TE1 numbers by the end of the season. If you're desperate, like I am, then there's 2 guys that stand out to me for this week only. I'm not going to say Witten because he's completely touchdown dependent. Like, he does nothing but score touchdowns. And that's, although, I forgot Dallas is playing Miami. So you could take a stab at Witten, but Witten is either he's getting you 7 or nothing. not great numbers, not, you know what I'm saying? So, but two guys that are kind of interesting is Disley. Disley showed us, and that's the tight end for Seattle. He actually played really good as a rookie last year, and then he got injured. So he only played a couple weeks, but he was looking really good. They don't have a lot of pass catchers in Seattle, and there's just not a lot of options at tight end on waivers. So Disley will probably be my other guy that I'm looking at. He did have like 6 catches, 66 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Can't overlook that. Obviously, I wouldn't expect that every week. He might not have another game like that. Probably won't for the rest of the year. But again, desperate times calls for desperate measures. Will Disley, at least he's talented. At least he's shown us flashes. You know what I'm saying? And then the other guy is Gerald Everett. That's the tight end for the Rams. He's also a really good athlete. He was a high draft pick. I think he was like a 3rd round pick. The last couple of years, he's been splitting pretty much evenly with Tyler Higbee. The reason I like him is 2 reasons. Tyler Higbee is probably out, so he should probably get the majority of the snaps. And again, he's talented. Cleveland has a pretty good defense, especially on the corner. They got Denzel Ward, who will probably be lined up with, one of these Rams receivers to take them out the game. And Cleveland has been susceptible to the tight end position the last couple of years. They've been the worst. So, increased snaps and opportunities. You're desperate. Cleveland's bad at tight end. No Tyler Higbee. These are darts, guys. But again, when it comes to tight ends, even the top tight ends haven't even been that great. So, with the exception of Kelsey this past week. And again, Oakland's one of the worst at tight ends. So, Olsen and Font, and then Disley and Everett. Those are some tight end options and what's absolutely horrible. So that pretty much sums it up. If you're looking for a streaming defense, Dallas against Miami, no-brainer. Detroit's going to be playing Philly. On paper, doesn't look great, but Detroit's just been consistent. They're a really good defense. They'll probably get a couple sacks. Wentz had a couple turnovers this last game, and he's down some playmakers. So I kind of like Detroit as just like a team you could just leave in there, a defense you could just leave in there. I haven't really looked at the matchups. There's probably other defenses that I like, but I'm be honest, I don't look at matchups till about Thursday. So that's why I really go over defense. I don't think I went over it last week either. Whoever plays the Jets, too, they're down to the 3rd string quarterback, so that's obvious. I don't know who the Jets play. So that pretty much sums it up, guys. If you could give me a thumbs up before you leave, it's much appreciated. If you could give me a sub, turn on those bell notifications if you haven't already. Hopefully you did get some value out of this waiver wire session. I wish there was more names to talk about, but I'm sure as the weeks go and the injuries pile up, we'll start getting better, and hopefully you guys will have saved your waiver, so when that opportunity comes to get that league winner, you're ready to pounce. Well, guys, comment down below, like I said. Follow me on my social media at Fantasy Football Rapper, and you guys have a great day. Until next time, we out.